Welcome to Cyber Threat Thursday. Again, this is Kristin Judge with the Cybercrime Support Network, and I am so excited to be here with Drew Rose. Drew and I met at an FS-ISAC meeting. We were just remembering in a basement in Chicago somewhere years ago when we used to travel places. And I was so impressed with how they were taking security and awareness to a whole different level to really engage people in a physical way. And every panel I'm on, every conversation I have, it's always about education and awareness. We need to make sure that the humans know what's going on because they play such a big role. And so it's really excited to see Living Security growing and doing well. And so Drew, welcome to Cyber Threat Thursday. I'd love to have you tell everybody a little bit about you and about the company.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Chris. I'm definitely excited to be here and have some really fun things to talk about. So yeah, my name's Drew Rose. I'm one of the founders of Living Security, also the Chief Strategy Officer. We started Living Security back in 2017, similar to Kristin's story time frame wise. And our goal really was to build a company that attacks the human risk problem of organizations in a really fun and engaging way, and giving our clients the resources to be able to reduce that risk of humans making decisions on devices, on their networks, within their computer systems that were more safe versus risky. Things like phishing, setting strong passwords, but your security fundamentals. And what Kristin is speaking about back at FS-ISAC, we were actually hosting our physical escape room, which is something we haven't done in about 7 months now because we don't do anything in person anymore. So we've actually pivoted to some really cool online experiences, as well as a full human risk management platform with individual training as well as team-based experiences. So that's a little bit about what Living Security does, and that's probably where the pitch is going to stop today, because we're actually going to be talking about something a little bit more exciting in terms of Security Awareness Month.
Well, I really appreciate you supporting Cybercrime Support Network, and I feel like we have grown up at the same time here, just for profit and not profit, but together everybody has a role to play. And now that you're in a different position in your company, you're starting to do some giving back, which I think is really fantastic. As a mother of a 23 and 25-year-old, I'm not really living the same experiences you are from the internet perspective. So tell us a little bit about the new campaign you're starting and have started for October.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So for those that are living under a rock, October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, or as it has been rebranded, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And it's an opportunity for enterprises to really focus on the topic of how to engage their employees to continue to make good decisions. But good security decisions don't just happen on the enterprises and within the networks. They happen in the car, they happen at home, they happen while you're traveling, your kids are doing it, your parents are doing it. Everybody is involved in technology almost every minute of the day, and there's threats everywhere. Now, our main focus is with corporate enterprises, large organizations. And this year, we've actually finally been able to take some of our time and our resources and our talents and create a campaign that had nothing to do with leads, marketing, sales, but really because it was something that we cared about. Which is how to teach parents and give the parents the resources that they need to protect their children. And I say that very broadly because there's lots of threats, there's lots of risks for children of all ages, from 4 years old to 18 years old. And a lot of parents that we come into contact with through our enterprise contracts really have no idea where to start. And so Living Security Family First, it has been a month-long campaign of webinars, PSAs, resources pages, and really just giving the ability for parents to not feel intimidated when it comes to technology, and telling them that it's not that hard to take that next step to protect their children.
I have to tell you that when I was at RSA working in the education and awareness area, they used to have upstairs in Moscone building with the big tree and talking about kids. And I cannot tell you, when I was working for the National Cybersecurity Alliance, the number one things people came by our booth for was, how do I take care of my kids? And we're talking about CISOs, CIOs, people that had 10 security certifications, but they didn't really know how to protect their kids. So this is a good thing for even audiences that are technical. So thank you for doing that. They're always looking for that. So tell us a little bit about, what sort of led you to go down this path of helping families right now?
Yeah, so I have to say it's actually very selfish of me. My wife and myself, we have 3 children together. Amelia, who's 6, Juliet, who's 8, and Bella, who's 12. And they come in contact, and especially since March, since we've all went and sheltered in place, they're on their computer, 50 times more than what they were before. They're being forced to kind of grow up and get into the digital age faster than what we had planned for them as parents to be able to keep up with coursework. And in doing so, they're going into this environment of the internet without knowing all the information of what to be scared of, what to be worried about, how, what's not good, what's good, right? And so, myself and Ashley, being the founders of a security awareness company, this was an opportunity to us to jump in with our children and say, these are the dangers and risks. And then we took that active approach by locking down their devices, by making sure they didn't have access to applications that were sharing sensitive or private data, or maybe applications where they would be able to see images and graphics that just weren't age appropriate. But I say selfishly because they are, in class with 15 to 25 other children. They're seeing their friends have devices, and their friends' parents, we can't trust that they're taking that same active approach, or that they understand the risks that their children are being impacted with in these devices. And so, what we're trying to do is just get the word out. Like, there's a lot of problems on the internet for children. There's a lot of bad people, bad messaging, bad things, and you should be concerned. And we're not doing this from this fear approach of like, you need to be scared. We're saying, yes, there's risks, but there's also a lot of ways that you can get on top of those risks and make active changes in the way that they are online. And so
that's right. You need to be empowering the parents,
yes.
Not, you're never going to get kids off of the internet anymore. It's done. Like, the digital age is here. The digital generation is here. They're going to be using the internet. They can't go to school now or do homework. Their textbooks are usually on the internet. So it's here, but now parents have to take a more active role. But you and I live in the security world. So to us, it doesn't seem that big a deal to add 2-factor authentication or parental controls to something. We sort of know where to go. So how does Family First help people navigate that?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So the same way that we approach our security awareness training for enterprises, where we want to not just throw fluff out there just for the heck of it, but we want to give information material that you can make an actionable difference or actionable change, right? You can go do something with the information that you're learning. We took a very similar approach to this Family First campaign. So we focused on 3 primary areas. We focused on locking down devices. So like you mentioned, setting parental controls, making sure they can't just download all the apps in the world, making sure you knew what type of apps that they were accessing every day. Social media security. So that's very specifically what are the issues of just going on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on Twitter. And then the third one is staying safe while gaming online. So these are for kids that are going out onto the World Wide Web and they're playing with random strangers or their friends, and they're online just in their game, for hours upon hours. And so what we actually started out with was my 12-year-old daughter, Bella. We had her do a bunch of research and create and write 3 PSAs, 3 public service announcements on each of those topics. And so she went to town in the research phase, and basically the tone was supposed to be, it's so easy a parent can do it.
Nice.
Meaning that here are the threats, here are the risks, and here's what you can do. And guess what? It's not hard.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and so we actually developed those 3 PSAs, and we've launched them throughout the month. Within those 3 topics, we've also have 3 webinars that we've produced. We've already shot 2 of them, and we'll have a 3rd one coming out. And then the last piece is we have a whole website at livingsecurity.com/family that has all the resources. And these are the tactical things like you just mentioned, like how to set up 2-factor authentication on Twitter, how to lock down Instagram so that your kids can't just follow everybody and anybody. And so that's the tactical items of like, let's start going through these things and making changes in the devices, in their social media accounts to better protect them from the dangers.
Well, and it's important that because when you just go into security on Instagram or Twitter, if you don't know the system, you're not going to know where to go and what to implement. So what you did basically is you drilled down to what they need to be putting in place and showed them how to do it. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in each of those applications, there is, that resources, and we do make the recommendations. If your kid, if you allow your kid and you understand the risk to be on something like Instagram or TikTok, there's still decisions you can make to try to protect it a little bit more. Now, I will say, giving access to social media, you're never fully safe, right? The only safe computer is one that's not plugged in and not turned on and maybe locked up in a safe. So it's all about the parents understanding the risk that they're introducing to their kids' lives by letting them access those types of applications.
But there's so much peer pressure. When your fifth grader comes home and says, all my friends have a Snapchat, how come I can't have one? In some ways, you're going to have to let them get there, or they could be ostracized from school. One of the number one things that people come to fraudsupport.org, which is our victim-facing website, number one, almost every month, or one or two, is cyberbullying. Yeah. So there's still such a huge cyberbullying issue out there. And the more devices they're on, the more accounts, the more exposure, the more chance that someone's going to do mean things to them. And I'm so glad you're paying attention to the gaming area, because I'll tell you, our son, when he was 13, his mom works in cybersecurity, told him all the time, don't talk to strangers, whatever it may be. But he was playing, I think it was Call of Duty. And there was a stranger who was in their group, however it works, I really don't know. I'm the typical parent when it comes to Xbox. My husband gets it, I don't, and that's fine. This guy seemed really nice. I'm using Connor's words now. He's really nice, Mom, and he just wants to help me ramp up and get to a better level on Call of Duty. And he's just really nice. But one day I heard that he's like, I'll text you. I'm like, wait a minute, how do you have this guy's phone number? Oh, he just wanted to text me when he was online so that whenever I wanted to go online, I could get more power on Call of Duty or whatever it was, whatever game. And I'm like, but wait, didn't we talk about this? He's like, yeah, but he doesn't sound old, Mom. I don't think it's an old scary man like you've explained to me is doing this. And so I listened in one time, like, oh my goodness, this man is at least 40. But it didn't matter to my son because he saw this guy's going to give me something. And so that's where they court them. And he was probably doing that to hundreds of kids around the world. Who knows where he was from? And then eventually one of them is going to give him your phone number. Then maybe you can meet up. And when I was running for public office in Michigan, we had 3 kids impacted by online predators. One went to Puerto Rico with somebody she met on Xbox. One went to another state with someone they met on Facebook. And one of them, they caught the perpetrator in the high school parking lot before the person was going to leave. So, I mean, this is so important what you're doing. Parents need help. Even though I worked in cyber, I still didn't handle it the right way with my son. And then I found out that Snapchat added this new location thing. I saw this map my daughter had one time, and it shows your exact location unless you turn it off. Yep. So if you have someone who's stalking your kids, even in college, my daughter was stalked by a predator, you don't want your kids giving away their exact location in real time. So do you talk about those kind of things too?
Yeah. So, I mean, you're nailing you're hitting the nail on the head with those stories. 1 in 25 youth receive online sexual solicitation when they try to make offline contact. That's one kid out of every classroom. When I talk to parents, a lot of parents think that, their kid is smart enough to not go meet up online to somebody, a random person they meet on in a game or on social media. And I would say that's absolutely true. But like what was happening with your son was he was being groomed. This is not the fast game. This is the long game. And this person, you're right. This is like something he's probably doing to dozens to hundreds of children, because over that grooming period, which could take, a couple months to maybe even a couple years, he's going to earn their trust. He's going to try to convince them the story is true. And until that moment of vulnerability comes out and he's able to take advantage of it, or she's able to take advantage of it. And that's the scary part, is that a lot of parents would think, and I think the same thing about my children, and say, I trust you that today, right now, you're going to make the right decision if something bad happens online. But it's that timing, like over the course of that time, it gets harder to discern what's real and what's fake. And these predators are really, really good at it. And that's what they don't understand. Like they don't understand like the tactics that they're using and how they're manipulating their that, these children into believing a story that's not true. And they're just touching on all the right things. He's going to make me better in the game. I'm going to be able to kill more people. My XP is going to go up. Everyone's going to like me more. These are all just positive things in their lives that they're able to just touch on. And then boom, hey, I'm coming to a convention and Call of Duty's coming into town. Let's meet up at the convention. It sounds so
we're
fictitious.
Just buddies. We're buddies, and we're just going to hang out. And, we talk about Call of Duty together. No big deal, right? They've never done any, because my son said, Mom, he's never done anything inappropriate. He's just a nice guy. And I'm like, of course he hasn't, because that would have been a red flag, because I've taught you to look for those red flags. So that's the thing. And I want to make sure you bring up a really good point. It's not that the kids are not smart enough. It's not that any cybercrime victim is not smart enough. It's that the perpetrators, the criminals, are really good and convincing. They've done their homework. We see similar things with romance scams. People feel so much that, it's my fault. I should have known better. I fell for it. It's like, no, you didn't fall for it. They manipulated you, and that's what we have to make sure people know. It wouldn't be something you should be ashamed of, and it's not. It doesn't reflect back on you not being smart enough. They're really good at it, and they've been using social engineering now for years. So I want to ask you, you talked about some of the critical issues that people need to look to Family First program for, and I'm so thankful that you're doing this. So besides attending this series, and what else can parents do immediately right now to help protect their kids? If you had to give them some quick advice.
And there's so many things. There's so many things that I want parents to do. I think, to be honest, the most important thing is for parents to take an active approach into the online behaviors of their children, whether that's following them on social media, jumping on the Xbox and playing a game with them, or just sitting them and watching them. You want to open up. I mean, I hate to sit here and give parenting advice, but your children need to feel safe coming to you with the issues they see online. If your operational status is just to say, oh, you're not allowed on this website, you're not allowed on this, and just that's where the conversation ends, they're going to find a way around it, or they're going to be at a friend's house on Snapchat and they're going to come into contact with something that it can be damaging to them in the short term and the long term. And then they're not going to want to bring it to you. We have to be, it's a dial, right? We have to be under the impression that it's not if, it's when it's going to happen, that your children come into contact with something dangerous online, and you want them to come to you first. And sometimes you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to get in the technology yourself, and you have to spend some time. And that's probably, out of all of the items that I would start, checking the box of in terms of protecting your children, that, to be honest, is probably one of the hardest ones, is that relationship aspect around technology.
I think it's even more, from a parenting perspective, that's an even more important issue than it was when I was raising my kids, who are in their 20s now. People would say, maybe you can't be friends with your kids. Like, well, no, actually you can be, but you can still be their parent. And we would just have a policy that if you made a mistake, just let me know, and then we can talk about it. But if you lie about it, then you get in big trouble. So we had this open dialogue. And now that I hear what you're saying, that's something that's really important, I think, for in this new technology world. You've got to not treat all of their technology as their reward or their punishment. If you say that you can have your phone only if you're good and I'm going to take it away, guess what? They'll find ways around it. Oh, you can only be on Snapchat if you behave and get your homework done, or I'm going to take it away. That's like saying to someone, our age, I'm going to take your right hand until you can, get this quiz done correctly. It is their life, and we have to recognize that. And if you're seen as the police monitoring what they do instead of someone who engages with them, then they're going to hide it, and they're going to come up with different things. You'll never know what they're doing online. And I read one time that there was about 20% of kids who were impacted or approached by a sexual predator. Only 20% told someone.
Yep.
That's scary. And that's when the predators start to win. And when my son got an Xbox, my husband got one. He's like, oh, great. I'll get on there and we'll play together from different rooms. He got a PSP, or the little one you can take with you, the portable one. My husband got one, and they played together on it. He still played with his friends, but my husband at least knew what was going on, how this stuff works. And he enjoyed it too. Don't get me wrong. He loved it. But it just said, hey, my dad, he plays Xbox with me too. And so it wasn't this place in my room by myself where no one could hear me. Also, I say, keep the devices out of the bedroom. Kids shouldn't go to bed with a device next to them. That's the one thing where you can say, look, as your parent, I'm going to monitor at least this time you need to go and sleep, and, not have them take it up to their bedroom and not have their computer in their room.
Yeah, I mean, that's all absolutely. We went through a scenario with my oldest daughter this past week where she texted my wife in a joking manner, but it's text messaging. And so she
Mm-hmm.
didn't like indicate it was a joke. And to the naked eye, it's like, oh, that was kind of offensive and rude and disrespectful. But with a winky face, we would have recognized. And so when we think about cyberbullying and making mistakes online, like we're not, me growing up, in the early 2000s, like we had to figure it out on our own. Yeah. And now that I have kids and they're growing up, like we can help them not make the same mistakes by like getting in front of like, this is how you interact with people online. You don't text stuff. You don't. One of the lines in one of the PSAs is you don't take pictures and post things you don't want your grandmother to see, right? Like we have to get in front of that and teach them. And again, it takes time.
Yeah, and there's an issue that's a little bit trickier, but I always bring it up whenever I'm teaching any organization about anything that has to do with kids or even just for the adults. And one of the things I taught my kids at a younger age was about child pornography and consensual pictures. So, when my son was 15, if he asked someone else to send a naked picture, that would be child pornography. And I showed him the felonies and the laws around that. And I know this is hard for some parents to imagine, but I've met with principals who say to me, I get naked pictures on phones brought into my office every single day in middle school. So we have to take our heads out of the sand. Kids are sending naked pictures at different ages, and it's male and female. So what I did teach my kids was when they got older, I said, first of all, number one, you can't send it depending on what ages there are. I prefer they don't send naked pictures anyway, but I was realistic. I said, if you ever do think you want to send a naked picture, take your head out of the picture. So at least, someone could Photoshop it on there, but with the people sending pictures around in schools and kids being harassed and having to leave the school, I did say, this was one of my parenting advice was, don't ever put your head in a picture. And I tell my adult friends that who might be dating, you've got to be thinking about when you take a picture of yourself and send it somewhere, assume it can go anywhere, similar to what you're saying for the grandparents. So right. we just got to open the dialogue and not be embarrassed to talk about this stuff. It's happening. So not talking about it doesn't make it go away.
Yep, that's absolutely right. And on that same subject, the more tactical things, lock down their devices at certain ages. Like even my 12-year-old, she's not allowed to download apps without our consent. So right. I have to say, as much as we want to bash, some of the big companies, I'm not going to name names here. They've done some really great things in parental controls and settings that are very helpful to us. And so one of them is in Apple, you can have the family control where she can request to download an app. A request goes to Ashley's phone. Ashley has to put in her password, and then she's allowed to download it. And so that's just a very simple device control in their iPhone that you can do to make sure they're not downloading Snapchat when they shouldn't be.
I think the companies have done such a good job of giving us more parental tools than we had even a couple years ago. And I think, do you have anything on Family First about what some of those parental tools are so people will know how to navigate them?
Yeah, exactly. So we have resources for Apple, Microsoft, and Google for those three operating systems.
Great. And if parents just spend, I know it seems like a lot to do. So what I recommend, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this, every Saturday morning before the kids get up, maybe spend a half an hour doing something on Family First. Let's pick one thing each week, maybe. Where would you want them to start? Is it two-factor, location services? But, it's a long term. We're going to be doing security for our families forever now. And I want them to get through everything that's on the site, but they're certainly not going to be able to do it in a day. So where should they start? Or did you put it in a method of, start here, start there?
Yeah, good question. I think it's like you want to kind of approach it with your, like, for instance, my 12-year-old daughter, I'm going to approach differently than if I had a 12-year-old son, right? Like there's a lot of great resources in gaming systems for Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo that are similar to social media, right? And so there's different approaches for different age kids. I would just have a conversation with them and ask them what they're seeing. And if this is the first time that you're asking that question, be prepared to hear some really terrible stuff. I think it's like, more than half of kids by third grade have run into pornography online. and if they don't feel open enough to tell you, this may be the first time you're hearing that. They may be hearing it from their friends, maybe having on Twitter, Instagram, that's not locked down, and they're just scrolling, and it's just like, women in bikinis over and over and over again. And so have that conversation and talk about the bad stuff they're seeing, and you will start getting an idea of what you need to protect. And there may be there may be some dramatic steps, like, okay, instead of it being 30 minutes, maybe this is more like spring cleaning, fall cleaning, and we need to spend 6 hours because it's bad, or maybe there's a couple quick wins here or there.
That's such good advice. Start where your kids are, because it's going to be different for every family. I love that. And I see that we have in the chat the link to Living Security's Family First program. So I want to make sure everybody knows, look in the chat, it's there. And just close this out. I appreciate, first of all, you supporting CSN and our mission to serve cybercrime victims, being in the education and awareness space where we need training. There is so much work to be done that I don't think we can, hit it in too many ways. And I love that you're coming up with different approaches and able to have a company at this point that can give back. And it's exciting to see you growing. So tell us at the end here, just tell us, what's the goal for Living Security? Who do you hope to reach to help grow your company so you can do more good things like this?
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, so we're building an engaging and immersive human risk management platform. Our target market is security awareness training. We work with organizations from 1,000 to 100,000 employees that are really looking to try to make that change, that are trying to shift culture away from a negative, you've been bad, you clicked on a link, to, hey, this is the stuff you need to know. And here's a bunch of really fun and interesting ways that you can learn about it. So we have team-based training that's all digital and online. We have individual training, and we're actually launching a really awesome integration platform next year where we're going to tie in a lot of very real data and metrics to try to help prove a return on investment within your training engagement program. So we're doing some really innovative stuff, and we're excited to be along with you and your organization as you guys continue to grow as well.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to get Family First on our fraud support website so people can see that and benefit from it. And we hope that we have a very long partnership. And thank you for all the great work you're doing. Drew Rose from Living Security. I give my best to the whole Living Security team. And thanks for joining me on Cyber Threat Thursday. This is Kristin Judge from the Cybercrime Support Network. Visit us at fraudsupport.org and scamspotter.org. And if you want to get more involved, reach out to me on LinkedIn. And thanks again, Drew, for everything that you're doing to help families and the kids stay safe.
Yep. Thank you, Kristin.
And we're attempting to end the broadcast, but Kristin's...
I was doing my best news reporter. There it is. Oh, now it's just me. So now it's the Drew show. Okay. Well, I guess I could keep talking.